Hi everyone. What wastes billions of dollars, infamously appears in the news constantly, and contradicts America's core values? Nope, not Kim Kardashian. The answer is America's criminal justice system. In our age of mass incarceration, harsh penalties, and insane recidivism rates, sometimes it's easy to forget where our problems begin. With you guys, our youth. Our juvenile justice system criminalizes young people, beginning their future in and out of prisons. I'm here to share with you today an idea about how we can fix our broken system with a new approach to justice. But first, I'm going to explain to you what exactly it is we need to fix. This is a story about Rachel, a young woman who I met at a fundraising breakfast where we learned about social justice issues, and I also ate about 12 pancakes. Rachel shared with us her story when she was at the young age of 11. Her family couldn't afford to buy her the new pair of clothes she needed, so she wound up shoplifting the clothes. She was caught almost immediately by the security guard, and he did not just send her off with a warning. Instead, he called the police and she was brought into custody. At her hearing, the judge sentenced her to 3 months in a juvenile hall. Can anyone here remember when they were 11? No? Too far away? Okay, one hand. Imagine being a 4th grader, a preteen, wearing the same pair of clothes every day, living with strangers, away from your parents and your family, and having to use the restroom in your cell, and having your whole life dictated by administrators. Imagine fights breaking out between children and guards, people constantly yelling, and in this Alameda County Juvenile Hall, guards legally allowed to use mace on kids. I'm imagining a scary and confusing place for a small 11-year-old girl. Rachel told us she felt like nobody cared about her in there. She underwent a traumatic and indelible experience, one she will never forget. Our juvenile justice system allowed an 11-year-old girl to be locked away, leaving her with a criminal record that will follow Rachel her whole life. Generally, if children like Rachel do not receive strong support, they will continue to make mistakes that will eventually land them inside a prison. This is where the journey to incarceration starts for many of our nation's youth. People refer to this concept as the school-to-prison pipeline. In short, this pipeline refers from kids going straight from school to jail. There are many reasons for this pipeline. One emerging pattern is failing public schools, pushing students out of our education system instead of fostering learning. Schools, especially ones in low-income neighborhoods, are often overcrowded and underfunded, just like our prisons. According to a New York Times article, a student who drops out of high school is 47 times more likely to become incarcerated than a college graduate. So your parents are right, school does matter, do your homework. The ACLU lists several other factors contributing to the school-to-prison pipeline. One pattern is zero-tolerance discipline strategies, policies that will automatically impose harsh penalties, sometimes regardless of what actually happened. Under these policies, students are suspended or expelled at higher rates for more trivial actions. What better way to kick someone out of our education system than to actually kick them out of school with an expulsion? Stationing police officers in schools is another quick way to criminalize our places of education. Students are being arrested more and more inside our schools for nonviolent offenses. And finally, the increasing rates of juvenile detention helps to fuel the school-to-prison pipeline. Children in detention facilities, just like Rachel, receive fewer educational resources inside the facilities and struggle coming back to school. Many do not graduate from high school. And these factors affect students of color at much higher rates than their white peers. Noting especially that a black student is 3.5 times more likely to be suspended than a white student. That 70% of in-school arrests are of students of color, and that students of color are 2.7 times more likely to wind up in juvenile incarceration than a white student. So for these reasons and others, prison becomes the future for many of our nation's youth. Instead of obtaining higher education, pursuing their dream career, or starting a family. Students that you and I should be graduating college with are instead graduating from one cell block to the next. So how do we end the zero-tolerance policies, police discipline, and juvenile detention of our friends, our brothers, sisters, daughters, and sons? How can we fix our broken system with a new approach to justice? I'm going to share with you a concept called restorative justice. If we bring restorative justice into our schools, we could have a significant chance at diminishing the school-to-prison pipeline. Restorative justice is an approach to education that allows children to trust and respect the discipline process while also eliminating harsh and ineffective punishments, thus contributing to a safer school climate and a reduction in juvenile incarceration. To explain restorative justice, I want you all to join me on a little imagination adventure. Let's say there's a boy named Sean and he's 13 years old, that's gonna be me, and Sean gets really angry and he punches someone. Now before we start making judgments, have any of you guys ever acted out of anger and done something that you regret? Probably a lot. Do you think that it is fair for our entire lives to be judged based on one mistake we made when we were 13 years old? Imagine with me a justice system that would not suspend or expel Sean for his rash action. Instead, restorative justice would bring together everybody in the case to analyze the whole situation to restore and repair relationships. We would hold a circle between the victim, the offender, family members, teachers, and peers to determine how we can best bring healing to the situation. Instead of an administrator handing down Sean an automatic punishment, the whole entire circle would agree upon a solution, which may include sincere apologies, reconnecting Sean with the person he hit, or some form of community service. Imagine with me a justice system that would not lock up an 11-year-old girl for stealing a pair of pants she needed. Instead, this comprehensive justice system would impose consequences to make sure Rachel knew not to steal again, but would also make sure she was receiving enough resources at home. With restorative justice, we would not lock Rachel up. We would not send her away with a huge gap in her education or leave her with a criminal record. With restorative justice, we would help Rachel. Restorative justice opens doors of possibility for our nation's youth. I'm going to say this again. If we bring restorative justice into our schools, we could end the school-to-prison pipeline that is locking kids up each and every single day. We wouldn't disproportionately suspend or expel our students of color. We wouldn't need zero-tolerance discipline strategies like suspension or expulsion because we would be providing more healing alternatives. We wouldn't need police officers prowling our schools because we would have students who trusted and respected their peers, teachers, and administrators. And finally, we wouldn't need juvenile detention because, again, we would be offering more healing alternatives than locking kids up and sending them away with absolutely nothing. Believe it or not, I'm not coming up with a crazy, out of the blue, unreasonable idea like I normally would. Restorative justice has taken root in schools all across the nation and all across the world. Many school districts have been practicing restorative justice and are seeing amazing results. In particular, local Oakland Unified School District, or OUSD, has done a fantastic job with its restorative justice program, also known as RJ. From 2011 to 2014, this local school district has implemented restorative justice sites in 30 of its schools. Graduation rates at RJ sites were 53% higher than non-RJ sites. Chronic absence went down 24% at RJ sites. Dropout rates went down 56% at RJ sites. These stats prove that restorative justice is ending some of the effects from the zero-tolerance discipline, police discipline, and court involvement that I was talking about earlier. Also, a majority of staff reported that restorative practices are improving the climate at their school. Based on these statistics, we can conclude that restorative justice is an effective program, popular with both students and teachers, can't forget the teachers, and also solves the problems of our students instead of ignoring the problems of our students. I went to Montero Middle School in OUSD when we first began our restorative justice program. Administrators had a fairly easy time gaining respect for their program because it was led by our respected peers. Training teachers to become effective circle leaders was a critical process because we had to have leaders who knew to make sure that the offender was learning and changing, but also make sure that the children isn't trying to quote-unquote manipulate the system, because kids try to get away with stuff. Our teachers, however, learned methods to trust and respect students, but also made sure that the circle was meaningful. I knew a kid in Montera who would get into fights all the time, and he participated in a restorative justice program because suspending him all the time just wasn't working. After his participation in our program, the boy finally learned to control his anger after being able to talk with someone about what was going on in his life. Our program changed him as it did many others. Okay, I'm almost done. Restorative justice, Rachel put it this way: restorative justice is the opposite of criminal justice because it is justice that heals rather than criminalizes. Let us change the outcome of the school to prison pipeline, introducing a school to success pipeline instead. We can end the mindless, racially discriminatory, and ineffective incarceration of young people by transforming our juvenile justice system. I urge you all to encourage your local school districts to implement restorative justice into your schools so that we can end the criminalization of children and begin the restoration of justice. Thank you.